The Wild Robot made me cry multiple times. Big spoiler warning for this cartoon movie review, but I wanted to get that out there before anyone spoiler phobic clicks off. So my first big cry came from the opening scene, when the robot wakes up and walks around the forest. Through expert directorial framing, the film beautifully captures both the micro and macro aspects of nature's beauty. The film's painterly art style instantly put me in the mindset of appreciating beauty, and they successfully maintained this momentum. But as I was watching in the theater, I had this feeling of, oh no, I'm crying. I don't know why. Nature imagery does a lot for me, but I know another part of that equation is the more direct storytelling happening in this scene. It's not just the creator playing with the camera angles. The robot's trudging through the forest trying to help, but they keep pissing off all of the animals. And hey, I have autism, so I know that feeling too well of being the big blundering idiot who can immediately get everyone in a room to hate me because I have zero situational awareness. There's a really cool scene early on where the robot, Roz, sits down and absorbs all of the animal language and learns to communicate. And while they're learning, there's a very quick Far Side reference since there's an animal conversation that's entirely made up of them saying hey. And this is the world's tiniest nitpick, but I wish Roz spoke with more of an autotune or Vocaloid-esque voice, and over the course of the film she started to sound more human. I find robot voices very cool, but I know this is going away IRL. The angle of making her sound awkward in the first act didn't totally work for me, but I guess a Vocaloid-esque delivery will be more off-putting to more people. Eventually, this movie turns into autistic guy raises a kid when Roz tumbles into a bird nest, ending the bird and its eggs, except for one, so now they're going to take care of it. Something I appreciated with this movie was very open about death. Treats death as a part of life, but there's also moments where they're able to joke about it and also get sentimental. This adds a lot to the Fox character, Fink, who joins Roz the robot in raising the bird, Brightbill. I liked how he acts like a fox, and not just that he's crafty and scheming. He's openly carnivorous, and this isn't treated as a fatal flaw that he has to overcome. What's more is he stays kind of a jerk the entire movie, which I love. I can't stand it when a character I love for being a total asshole suddenly gets all mushy and soft over time. Like, come on, just stay the lovable scumbag I fell for. I was thrilled that Fink the Fox gets some character development, but he still keeps his foxy little personality completely intact. In that sense, this movie reminded me a lot of the book Cry of the Wild, Tales of Sea, Woods, and Hill by Charles Foster, and it's able to get into their distinct animal mindsets in a way that fully utilizes the abstraction that comes with text. It feels more like a first-person POV for a nature documentary than a talking animal story. It's so impressive how this book was able to make me feel how different animals think, and it's unlike anything else I've ever read. So watching The Wild Robot and being reminded of Cry of the Wild was incredibly gripping. Maybe I am just sparse on my furry stories, but the distinct animal personality shined in Wild Robot. Especially since you can't do a simple find and replace and turn this into a story about humans. The carnivorous angle and being so open about death made this a uniquely animal story. There's also a level of abstraction that feels more human, yet remains open enough for people from all walks of life to project their own feelings onto it. A more mild example would be when Brightbill meets up with the other geese. He's the odd one out since he was raised by a robot. Is this scene about your first day at school, moving to a new continent, or interracial adoption? The answer is whichever one you personally experienced, because it's about a duck and a robot. Although, the adoption plot thread is much more concrete throughout this movie, and that's where this movie does lose a few points for me. Because they do the tired trope of, kid doesn't know he's adopted and the adopted parent is hiding it. Not to get too cinema sins, but that's not how adoption works IRL, and I was groaning so hard at the liar reveal scene. But that's only a minor speed bump, and things start cruising again once that's dealt with. The only other low point in this movie was the learning to fly training montage with the believe in yourself inspirational music. That went too thick with the sappiness for my taste, but I know that this is a movie that wants to cloy at your heartstrings. Just because it went over my personal threshold doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, I know the last act of the film hits the sentimentality even harder, and I did love that. So in that instance, it really is a me problem. But if there's some parts that I can dismiss as not for me, I do wonder who this is for, and I mean that from a marketing standpoint. Brightbill has a little swish of protagonist hair, but he just kind of looks like a bird. Same for Fink the Fox, who looks even more ordinary. Roz the Robot is the most unique character design here, and so far the only merch of this movie I could find online was a plush of them, but I feel like they're lacking a marketable cuteness like Wall-E. I was never pointing at a singular character and going, there he is, there's this movie's Olaf. Finally, he's here to interject a helping of wackiness and sell toys. With the new Shrek movie on the horizon, I'm expecting a hyper-maximalist marketing and once again seeing that green fox smarm-browing up and down the grocery aisle. So I wonder if Wild Robot is deliberately doing the opposite and aiming for an older demographic with deeper pockets. This is a very artsy film with wide audience appeal, so I could imagine that one of their core marketing demographics is Ghibli bros. How long until Wild Robot is selling $80 statues and tasteful enamel pins next to Miyazaki merch? If this is true, It's very interesting that a modern animated film would recognize its untapped marketing potential instead of more safely rolling the dice on inserting another minion clone into their movie. Or maybe I'm totally off the mark since my last few grocery visits were to an Aw-chan and they aren't carrying the Wild Robot Twinkies. But please leave a comment with any Wild Robot merch you've encountered. I would love to hear more about what DreamWorks is doing with this. I also wonder if Chris Sanders was given more creative freedom with this since he has the social capital from being the guy that made Stitch and Toothless. We're definitely seeing a lot of specific tropes that came up in his previous movies. We've got orphans, unconventional families, protagonist with a missing leg, and a character being the runt. And there's an interesting message about being the runt in this movie. At one point, the head goose tells Brightbill that he probably would not have made it this far if his siblings had survived. It was an intriguing everything happens for a reason message that ties things together, and that's not the only one. The film's final act delivers an immensely satisfying series of Chekhov's gun payoffs. This is a film that can be studied as a perfect execution of Save the Cat or the hero's journey. And just like the Joseph Campbell hero will return home in the final act, so too will Jesus Christ someday return. This movie felt very Christian coded, and if it feels a little too blasphemous to compare the second coming of Raz the Robot to biblical events, this is a movie with plenty of feel-good messages about love thy neighbor, kindness, and everybody getting along. So my second full-blown, tear-jerking, make-a-grown-man cry fest hit during the winter storm scene. They bring all of the animals into a hut and, get this, call a truce. Is this heaven? Are we in heaven now? What's next? Everybody holding hands and singing Kumbaya? But damn it, I loved it! It was so over the top that I completely gave in. Nature is brutal and savage, and that made this peace treaty all the more beautiful. So there I am, full-blown, snot-nosed, embarrassing, why is this happening to me cry fest, but oh no, they weren't done punching me in my emotional guts just yet. Next thing you know, the robot's growing a heart, thus fulfilling its elevator pitch promise of Pinocchio meets Siri, and I fall for it, like an idiot. Then, they hit me with the big damn reunion in the final scene. Just when you think, hey, maybe I'll walk away with this with a little self-respect? No way. One last tearjerker grenade right at the end, just to make sure I'm a complete mess by the credits.